Hello, everyone, and welcome to the UnFuckIt Discussion. It is the middle of the fucking month. August. Yeah, no idea where the rest of August went to. It fucking vanished on me, much like July and June. So I want to start off the conversation with one topic, because I have to tell you guys, I've been so excited. I've been waiting for today to talk about this, because it so plays into all the other conversations that we've kind of been having recently, right? Talking about community, talking about uniting and people coming together, and that it doesn't matter what you believe. So here on Gozo, we have a little Facebook group for homeschoolers. Very, very small group because it's not acceptable here. So it's kept quite quiet. And we get together every Tuesday with our families, and we do, usually it's a beach day. Like during the summer, or when it's mild enough weather, we do a beach day. And every Tuesday morning we get together on the beach. So all the kids come together and they all play and run rampant and go nuts. Now our group is obviously, to a certain level, the fact that they are homeschooling, there's a level of awareness there, right? Because anytime you go down any one rabbit hole, you start down one, it leads to others, etc. But our little group is very, very diverse. Very diverse backgrounds. We've got a lovely family from Zimbabwe, another family from England with two little girls. We've got another friend who's Scottish but lived in Japan and India for 25 years. Another friend from Zimbabwe. Another friend who's going to be joining us very soon is from South Africa. So, and diverse backgrounds. Like, just really, really different. And their awareness is at very, very different levels too. The one couple who we've gotten to be quite good friends with are a younger couple, and they've got two little girls. And they really have only just started kind of really figuring this shit out in the last year and a half or so. And it started with her looking up information about homeschooling because they were thinking of traveling. And then when she started researching, she went, even if we don't go traveling, I'm pulling my kids out of the public education system. There's no way I'm doing this. No way. All on vastly different paths and parts of the journey. And we sat down yesterday, and conversations flow as they always do. And we ended up having a conversation for hours about basically Unfucker Island. And it was an amazing conversation. And even more so amazing to the fact of here was all these people from these who've never heard of Unfuckers, obviously, have such diverse backgrounds, are in such a broad spectrum of where they are in their journey to waking up to a lot of the bullshit and becoming aware of all the shit that's going on. And yet the one thing we all had in common was this need to get the fuck out. Everyone we've actually made plans. We've actually made some plans. We put some groundwork plans together, and we've decided that if we're all serious, it's time we start making some kind of a plan, even if it's a long-term plan, to find a place where we can start looking at this idea of getting off of it, getting out of it, pulling away, where we're not dealing with the daily government crap. Unfortunately, pretty much anywhere you go, unless we find a n-dimensional portal space of an island where the governments can't find us, we're going to have to deal with governments on a certain level. But getting away from the social bullshit, getting away from the day-to-day incessant nagging bullshit of society. And it was astounding because, you know, like, to me, it really opened up so much of an awareness for myself. Being in an Unfuckers group, and we all talk and we share and we experience and we do all these things. And we tend to get to a point where we kind of think insularly, at least I do, where you think of it, it's the Unfuckers who feel this way. Now, we all want to get out of this shit. We all want out of this shithole. We all want to find Unfuckers Island, a place where we can go and just walk away from it all and just do our thing. And we think of it, at least I do, as being kind of like just us, our little group. Here's our Unfuckers group, and this is us. And then having this conversation made me realize it's not just us. Here are people who are, like I said, so different. Extremely different backgrounds from a lot of us, and their journey has been really, really different. And yet they themselves are in the exact same place where they've recognized that everything around them, at least at a fundamental, in this reality, at a fundamental level, everything around them is complete and utter bullshit. All the government shit, all the social stuff, the stuff that they have to deal with their families, with their friends, for the choices that they're making for their families, the stuff they've had to deal with. And they're right where we are. Right fucking where we are. One lady is Catholic. Lovely, lovely lady. Doesn't do the whole religion thing, but grew up as a Catholic, and she, you know, occasionally her and the family will traipse off to Mass, like once every 6 months or something. Yet she's right there in the same place we are, saying, I can't take this anymore. I just want to take my family and find a place where we can go, where we can just be. And I really think, I just wanted to share this with you guys because it was so important to me to make that realization, for me to come to a place and understand that it's not just us. It's not just our little group here. This is something that's being felt by people everywhere. Everywhere. And even if they don't even completely understand it, they may not even understand the full aspects of it. They may not understand the deep, dark depths of the corruption of government or what society or religion. They may not even come close to having that awareness, but they still feel it. And they just sit there and they go, I don't want this anymore. I know that this, whatever this is just complete bullshit. And I just want to take my family, get up and walk out of it and find a place where we can just be. Just be. So I'm going to be, I'm going to start a little group up in the RTS once we've got everything all settled and sorted. And I'm going to bring them in because I've said we need to have a secure place where we can sit down and we can talk about the kind of stuff that we want to do. And if any of you guys want to join us, that's fine. But just remember to be gentle. These guys are all on their own journey. They're not fully up to speed all the shit that we talk about. So, but I am going to start because we've said, if you want to do something, you got to make plans. And we said, even if, and Brianna, I brought you into the conversation I had with them yesterday. I said, look, I have friends in Europe who are just in the same place that we are in, who I've just said, and I said, look, even if it starts, because we talked about Spain, we talked about Italy and Greece and Portugal, and the fact that they're so destitute. And we talked about like an experiment out of Italy where the mayor put that call out saying, hey, we'll pay you to come move to the town and we'll give you dirt cheap rent for life. And it was an overwhelming success. And I honestly feel that we have an opportunity that if we were to start putting plans in place, that we could put together pretty much kind of like a business plan and start approaching some of these places in the south of Spain, in the south of Portugal, some of these places in Greece, and say, we don't need anything from you, the government. We don't want your welfare. We don't want your EI. We don't want your we don't want your fucking health care. All we want is a place. And we'll come in and we'll rent the houses, we'll rent the thing, and we will bring people in. We will rebuild, we will do our thing, and all we're asking is for your go ahead. Like, you give us the permission to move ahead and do our thing, and we'll go. And by the way, the one part of the deal is going to be that there's going to have to be certain rubber stamps on things like visas and residencies type thing. It'll be like when people, once people are going to come, I say whether they're coming from Russia or they're coming from the States or whatever, if they like, you're going to have to just rubber stamp those residencies type thing. So, you know what? This is the time to make plans. We can do this. So we said, with our little group here in Gozo, we said, so maybe we start in Gozo. And we looked to the point where we talked about setting up kind of like all the different plans that I've had about setting up, maybe renting, because we can only afford to rent, 2 or 3 houses that are linked together, and turn 1 or 2 of them into a bed and breakfast type thing. So you start bringing income where people can come in, and then you offer the courses in permaculture. We'll have, rent the fields. Fields you can rent here for dirt cheap. That's the one amazing thing here. You can rent farmland here for next to nothing. And start doing courses and start doing the kind of shit that we want. And the idea being of like, make a testing ground. Here's our test base. And then once we've kind of ironed out kinks in that, we can start look at other places to go. But it just seems to me now that's the time of no talk. Now it's time to start doing. Start making plans, making goals at the very least, saying this is where we want to go, and let's set a timeline. Okay, well, we want to get this far at this point in time. So if it's the people who are, for example, our little group who is on the ground here, can start saying things like, okay, well, that means we need to start saving up money. We need to start getting money put aside to take over some fields and to then rehabilitate the fields. Boy, Ben, I'll be talking to you about that, obviously. This is one of those things. So we start moving forward. And hey, look, I'm going to start moving forward with a group of people who don't believe what I believe, who don't have the same belief systems that I have, but we want the same thing. We want the same things for our family, so we're going to work together, and we're going to try and work our way through and come together with a plan. And just like I said, really important, I think, right now, that now's the time that we need to start moving forward, really start moving forward and making plans to move forward. And that doesn't mean that you have to do it next week or next month. But if you can start even thinking about where you want to be in a year, 2 years, right? Yeah, definitely, Jenny. Then this is the kind of stuff that we need to be working on. And yeah, I'm actually very serious about a real life community and doing something where we get together and put together a business plan. And even if it means one of those things where you take couple of years to save up the money to put together down payments, if you will, and go to find out all these people who run these, I don't know what's it like in Spain and Italy, if they call it states or provinces or counties or whatever. Go to these local governments in areas that are just destitute and say, right, you've got all these empty villages. Like Nick said, when he drove through the south of Spain, there were so many abandoned villages that he drove through. It was unbelievable. And just put a business proposition on the table saying, hey, we have all our own people. We have got our people who can do construction. We have people who do healthcare. We've got alternative healers. We've got farmers. We've got permacultural specialists. We've got inventors, we've got alternative energy people, and say, this is what we want. We don't want anything from you. Nothing. And we're willing to sign contracts to say, we don't want your EI, we don't want your welfare, we don't want your tax rebates. We do not want anything other than to be allowed to live on this piece of land, do what we're going to do, and hey, turn it into some businesses that we can bring people in. tourism businesses. You start bringing people in who want to learn all kinds of stuff. The one lady from a lovely family from Zimbabwe, she does wool. She can do anything with wool. And she's literally going around, because the Gosselton farmers here who have sheep don't do anything with the wool. She's collected bags of wool, which she's now hand carding. And then she's going to do courses on how to spin and how to weave and how to dye wool and how to felt wool and how to knit with the wool and how to do crafting with the wool for kids and courses for kids to do. This is the kind of shit. We've got all these amazing, knowledgeable people who've got lots to offer. And you know what? I mean, I want Unfuckers Island as much as anyone does. But you know what? At this point, we're not going to magically manifest an island pop out of the sea that we can just move on to. Yeah, there you go. Whole Portuguese villages for the price. Yeah, this is the thing. There's massive amount of villages for sale. Like I remember we saw that one. You may remember that one. The one somewhere in Spain, and it was a village that had a freaking castle and like a fully functioning wheat mill on a river with the whole turning wheel and the whole bit, the water wheel. And it was like the entire village, including the castle, was, I think it was like less than 200,000 euros. And it was like 25 acres of land in an entire village that had like 7 houses on it, etc.
Where's the castle?
The castle, I don't know, somewhere, it was somewhere not too far from Barcelona, actually. It was towards the coast in Spain. And it was like an old rundown castle, obviously. It's something that would have to be muchy refurbished. But it was still a freaking castle. I mean, come on. How many of you North Americans have ever been like, yeah, I'd live in a castle, it'd be so fucking cool. Like, buy a piece of property that's got, and Paleolithic ruins on it. Like there were actually like Paleolithic digging sites and ruins on this piece of land that had never been investigated. I'm like, it's like freaking perfect. Yeah, I know, Patrick. I've joked about Russia for a long time. The only problem is they have winter, like real winter. And I'd rather stay in a place that doesn't really do like the real winter. South of Spain, be okay.
There is deserted villages in Portugal.
Yeah.
There's deserted villages
all over the south of Portugal. And I'm talking, I've got a friend of ours, and she knows who I'm talking to. She'll be listening to this later, who's got a lovely piece of property in the south of Portugal, pretty damn close to the sea. And she's desperate for people. Like she's trying to run this place by herself. And it's like she calls it the magical orchard. And she's got, trees and everything. And it's like,
what's her name?
I'm not going to give her name out over a recording, Dobby. Come on. She knows who I'm talking about. She's in the UU room. She knows who I'm talking about. Greece right now, another unfucker who's not living, he's Greek, he's not living in Greece right now. And him and I had a long conversation, a chat 2 weeks ago. And he was saying the prices in Greece for property, they are so desperate. They're abandoned farms everywhere because grandma and grandpa have died and the kids don't want to have anything to do with farming. And they're just abandoned. Olive groves, massive groves and olive farms, etc. And they've just been abandoned. And it's becoming a problem in Greece. Obviously, it's becoming a massive problem in Spain and Greece and Italy and Portugal, right?
And into the Gulf of Mexico as we get into the middle and end of the week next week.
I can't hear you, hon.
Looking like it's going to come across Puerto Rico and then possibly Cuba. Not good at all, but
that's the news.
Oh, okay. Can somebody TD? There we go. So I thought she was talking to me. There's tons of land. They're desperate. And Greece is one of those places, they're so desperate. So fucking desperate right now. That you can, walk into a place and you can make deals. And as long as you're not taking up, valuable commodity, like you're not trying to get, obviously blocks of downtown Athens out of the deal. If you're going into places, I do not see how we could not be able to make this work. So it's something that I'm going to be looking into. It's a long range goal. This is not something that's going to happen overnight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, but Star Walker, everywhere is a police state. I'm fucking living in a police state right now. Yeah, grow our own tobacco. Yeah. Yeah, Greece should turn it to... Hey, listen, you can buy islands of Greece. Do you know how many islands on Greece are being sold right now? I mean, technically, if you want to talk about Unfuckers Island, you could, if we could win a lottery and just come up with like a million or two, you could buy yourself a real fucking nice island in Greece right now with $1 million. And I mean, I'm not talking like one of those, rock with a house stuck in the middle of it. I'm talking like an island. But that would be the part of the deal that you'd make, is be like, think about, we don't need your power. We don't need your medicine. We don't need your government stipends. Hell, we'll fix our own fucking roads. Right? We need nothing from you. You need everything from us. We can create viable communities. And the idea is, yeah, but different than that. Like the idea is, Megan, it's not, the idea is that, like I've said, we all have stuff to teach. Now, some of you guys who have been around since 2013 may remember me talking about the fact that I had a dream that came to me in January of 2014, just before we went back to Morocco, which is one of the driving reasons why we ended up going back to Morocco, is because of the dream that I had. And in this dream, we were in a community. And I'm talking to a camera like this. And I'm walking around with it. Someone's walking around with the camera on me, and I'm walking around, and there's an open, beautiful foyer, like a... Girls, what are you doing?
Wait, why are you going into my room? Oi! Why are you going into my room?
Excuse me for a moment. I'm going to go gag some giggling girls. Anyways, and basically talking and just like welcoming everyone. Yeah, it's whatever the date is. And this is what we've got on the plan. And there was a guy who was standing off to the side. He was like at a podium, I had a microphone, and he was reading off all the events. Well, over at 1 o'clock today, we've got like a seminar that's going on about permaculture over here. And in the kitchens at 3 o'clock, we're going to be doing a canning seminar. So anyone who wants to join the canning seminar. And there were cameras all over the place. And it was live streaming. So that it was like there was a live stream camera in the kitchen. So they were doing the cooking, canning, whether I was doing like distilling essential oils. There was one in a workshop where they were making alternative energy devices, where they were making all kinds of stuff that was going on in there. And it was being broadcast. And people were coming. People were coming because they genuinely wanted to learn. And they could come and they could, they could either, rent a campsite, like a tent, and have a tent and stay for a couple of weeks, or help out, or do however they wanted to be involved. You bring people in, it's good for the country because you're bringing tourists, even if they're going to be obviously very specific type tourists, eco-tourists, people who are there to learn, but you're bringing people into the country, and you help the local countryside around you because you end up trading, right? We're not going to be able to grow, say, everything that we have, so you start trading off, and you trade with other farmers in the area, or you bring trade out back and forth, etc. So yeah, this has been one of my pushes for years, and I've said I know that this can work. It means cannabis in Portugal is totally legal. It's legalized, fully legalized. Spain, it is decriminalized, and you can grow it. And I'm not sure about Greece. And Italy, it's pretty much 99% decriminalized in Italy as well. No, and this is okay. Lemon, there's your thing. And this is one of the things I've learned my lesson on. Lemon just said, the only problem is you build a viable community like that, and pretty soon every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to live there, and boom, overpopulation. No. First of all, you're never going to have an overpopulation thing, because once one community gets started, let's say in the south of Spain, let's say right around Malaga, because Malaga is a beautiful area, and it's really, really hurting it economically. So you go into one small community, say south of Malaga, and it works. Do you think you're not going to have a problem opening a second community, maybe 50 miles away down the coast? Or in Portugal, or in Italy, or Greece? Because once you've got that base, and you've already proven, you got your proof of concept right there, this can work. And here, go talk to this mayor over here, and he'll tell you about how well they're happy they are to have good neighbors in who are good, they're responsible, and they're actually adding to the economy. Overpopulation is never going to be a problem because you can always find a way of expanding. Now, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, that's the thing. And that's one of the things I said, that was one thing I learned the hard way, and all the communities that I've kind of worked in, whether it was online communities, whether it's like Austin in Morocco, is you have some people who show up, who talk the good talk, but that's all they do, is talk the good talk. And I said, even in the conversation I had yesterday, there has to be rules, and there has to be certain foundational points laid out. And it be extremely open and above board with those points of like, this is a community where everybody works. Not just sit around and talk about how we're going to work for hours and hours and hours without actually getting up and doing any work. Because we saw a lot of that in Austin, like a lot of that in Austin. People wanted to spend days and days debating on what the definition of community was, etc. So there's going to have to, you end up, you got to have rules. And it may even be one of those things of like, in order for someone to come to move to the community, they got to come in and do 3 months. 2 months, where they come and they stay at the community for 2 months. And if it all works out really, really well, then they get the invitation to stay and make a permanent home there. Maybe that's how you have to do it. That way you know who it is that is coming. Because we've seen, people who I really, really love don't walk the talk. And so therefore you've got to have people around who are actually going to do the work. Setting up a community ain't easy. You're talking back-breaking labor, digging ditches, building houses, digging wells, setting up solar farms, whatever the alternative energy is, and getting plumbing and this is not going to be a walk in the park. It means hard work, and therefore the people who want to be involved have to be serious.
I have a bit of insight into all of this stuff, eh?
I was waiting for you to unmute, so you talk and I'll smoke.
Well, it's quite a funny thing trying to build.
I'll be dragging you over because we're going to need soil doctors, so you and Jesse are going to be getting dragged over to come in and do some soil work. Not even a question.
Institute and Hemp Solutions, yeah. But yeah, essentially when it comes down to it, what you've got to, if smartly.
Oh, Ben, we're losing you, hon.
Be right. I'll log out and I'll come back.
Okay, log out and come back. Well, we're waiting for Ben to jump out and try and jump back in and jump up and down and make an antenna out of his hand to try and get his Wi-Fi to connect. Does anyone else want to add anything to this?
Yeah, I had a vision.
Yeah, tell us.
Serious vision. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
I was dreaming about a couple of islands off the coast of South America in the Mexican Gulf. And I was like in the island, and then I was above the island. And I saw the contours of the island, all the details, all the little pieces. But they weren't there, you know, they're not there, but they were there. Yeah. So if we want an unfucker island, we should manifest it. Because if you don't, you get local governments on your ass and police and local dickheads, and you know, we're gonna have to manifest it.
And Doppy, see, here's the thing. I agree with you. In the end run, you're absolutely right. I completely agree with you. But the problem is this. I'm not willing to wait. I'm not willing to lay a bet on manifesting an island out of nothing. I'm just not. So I'm going to make a step-by-step plan for my family that includes, okay, I'm going to start here in Gozo, and we're going to start pull together, and let's see what we can do. Let's see who we can work with, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're going to expand, and we'll go. And you know what? The whole thing is we do Spain, we do something. Who knows what happens? Who knows that, you know, all of a sudden we stumble into some money and we can buy an island autonomously off of, you know, somewhere off the coast of Belize or something like that. I'm just saying, I am the realist. I am very much a realist. And I have spent years and years waiting, wanting, and the time comes we have to say, no, I can't just keep waiting and wanting. I need to plan. And I've got a plan for what I have available to me in this now. And what I have available to me in this now is, you know what, a small group of people who have the same goals I have, who are right here in Gozo. And if we can start, like I said, with just like 3 or 4 houses, and we can start just a teeny corner and then expand from there, great. But I'm not willing to wait around anymore. I'm not willing to play this game of like, waiting for someone to do it for me, waiting for something to manifest, whether it's the money to purchase something, whether it's the island to appear, whether it's, I don't know, the aliens to come down and zap us an island somewhere, whatever, doesn't matter. I am not willing to wait anymore because I've spent years waiting. And I think all of us have spent years waiting for this kind of stuff. And the only way we're going to, you know, it's the whole thing we keep talking about, the whole thing is that we are our own saviors, that the ones we've been looking for are ourselves. Maybe this is one of those pieces, that the ones we're looking for are ourselves. And therefore we got to make it. Hey, Ben, you're back.
Does that sound any better?
Oh, much better.
Cool. It's amazing what turning your computer on and off and sitting closer to the Wi-Fi does. So we were talking about communities and all that kind of stuff. And that's something that my big focus has been on for like the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
The first 2 years was really hard until we found a book. And that book basically, at the end of it, has systems, implementations, ethics, different degrees of sizes of communities based from anything from 10 to 15 families to up to 600 people, which is kind of the maximum that through sociological and societal studies, that once you start getting over 600 people, the people stop knowing who each other are. 600 is kind of the capacity, and that's where things like lawlessness and thievery and corruption and crime starts kicking in, which is why they're trying to funnel everyone into the cities, because that just breeds it.
Exactly.
But where a lot of people kind of go wrong that we've found is they don't start off with an ethical basis. And the ethical basis is what brings everyone together and helps create trust. And the main reason behind needing that is as you were saying before, you know, you've got different balances and people that know different things and have different skills in different areas. But if you're all on the same ethical basis, what that achieves is it allows you all to function autonomously towards those ethics. So like you said, we've all got the same goal, but we all have different ideas and we all have different skills. And what society doesn't do at the moment is harness those skills. So you're lumped into these things that are needed to make society exist rather than a community exist. And what that comes down to is your fundamentals. And that's what most people overlook. So everyone wants a community or everyone wants some land, but how are you going to steward that land, take care of that land, and lessen your impact on that land for maximum production?
Yep.
So what we then started focusing on, because what most people look at is hey, we'll just buy some land and we'll move there and we'll have this. But that's where things fall apart.
Yeah.
Because everyone moves onto the land and nothing's actually been established for the land. And as we know, like, you know, everyone in the room, like, we're all creators, correct? Like, we are, regardless of how down you feel, depressed, hard, sick, or anything like that, we are the creators. It's what we put our intention and efforts behind that happens, regardless. You know, the technological industry wouldn't have happened without us. The monetary industry and the economics wouldn't have happened without us. The Industrial Revolution wouldn't have happened without us. It was us. It wasn't the money. It wasn't time. It wasn't 0.01% of people doing it. It was the masses. So we built all of this. And that's one thing that people kind of forget. It was us. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the time. It wasn't the machinery. It was us. So we can do it for ourselves. And then that side of things all then starts with bioregionalism, because we all know that there are microcosms and there are macrocosms and there are micro environments and there are macro environments. And the micros play part to the macro, so you can't, they're indivisible. And what we do is we divide them and we create monocultures in areas that used to be rainforest or palm plantations where there used to be, you know, grasslands or rainforest. But if you were to audit those areas prior to their desecration, you would probably find that 90% of what that area needed was already there. You know, Australia is actually a really, really perfect representation, because the Aborigines here, aka the Aboriginals, and I won't call them Aboriginals because the ab means not. So the originals to this area in Australia, it's only just starting to come out now, or science and the white fellas here have only just started allowing it to come out, that these were the most diversified farmers that potentially have ever existed on the planet. Yep. To the point where the largest piece of land that is isolated by water has been managed to perfection for hundreds of thousands of years. We're not talking tens of thousands or 60,000. We're talking hundreds of thousands of years. And they managed it through ice ages, through calamities, because their oral traditions have now also started correlating with massive meteorites and massive tidal waves and things like that that happened 50, 60, 70, 80,000 years ago. So these people managed this entire continent right down to where they had hunting reserves, they had fish farms, they had bunyonut plantations. It was quite amazing. So unity and an ethical basis has been proven to work. The second phase is, of course, when you're setting up a community like this, is trust. And it's not just trust in the others around you, it's trust in yourself. And that's where we always found where we fell was the financial side of things. Because at the moment, and regardless what anyone says, my research shows that unless the system gets taken down It's going to be there. And that's a hard one to kind of fathom. But seriously, the system has been in play for thousands of years. Like, we know that. It's written down. It's there. It can't, like, you can't question facts. And the facts are there. The system is at play, and it is an act. And there are tools and ways to subjugate your interplay with that. And if the communities are established correctly, then each individual can act under the community with autonomy. And the community is what interacts with the system.
And that's the conversation you and I are going to be getting deeply into later on, Ben. That is because you and I had so many conversations about this in Australia. And that is this very specific piece of this that's really important.
Well, that's the thing. So we've been focusing on how to make something that is 100% responsible, environmentally inert, e.g. it has no impact. If anything, it has a regenerative or beyond regenerative impact, but is also economical, because then what happens is if you can create that model, the system itself cannot fault it. Because the system is about commerce. So if you can tick that box and play that game correctly,
yep,
it's actually unfaultable.
Yep. No, and I agree. And that's why I talked about the fact of if you can go into a region, like I said, using the south of Spain as an example, just because we know what's availability there. If you can go in and take a destitute region where the federal government has no money to give them any money, and they're in bad shape, and if you can go in and create an economy from whatever basis point it's created from, whether it's through tourism, whether it's through agriculture, whether it's through, it doesn't matter. If you are feeding that system, you legitimize your presence in that system.
Well, you tick that box.
Yeah.
And like I say, is like you've got northern Spain and you've got southern Spain, and then you've got, you know, the middle part of Spain, and some parts grow tomatoes better than the other parts that grow grapes. So when you start talking about bioregionalism, what you're doing is you're doing an audit on that area on what its resources are. Not in the aspects of, hey, we've got oil and we've got coal and you may have those things, but on a larger plane, what do those things mean? You know, like oil is created, water is created, and all those little bits and pieces like oil and coal and limestone and yada yada all play parts. So like where I live at the moment, luckily we've moved on to a 280 acre property that is completely 100% surrounded by natural reserve that is on the Gondwana reserve list. So we live in the bottom end of the big scrub, or what was the big scrub in Australia. Our landlords were the people who started Australia, if not the world's first protest against big corporation logging, and they won. So we live on a very, very historical site called Protesters Falls. Now these people have spent 30 years. We have backup water to backup water to backup water to backup water to back up the backup of the backup of the water. And all our water bleeds out of the ground. Like our main source of water is this white clay hole out of the ground. So these guys spent their time, because like where we are, like we get 2 meters of rain a year, which is a lot. Wow. A lot of fucking rain. Yeah. But the water is the big thing, right? You want to grow food, you want to fucking drink, you want to have all those things, because Australia can also be very dry. So like what's just happened here, we got just under like 1.5 meters of rain in 48 hours not long ago, right? but it hasn't rained since. Like, it's dry. It's really, really dry. So the thing being is you have, like I say, you have your thing. So you got shelter, you got water, you got food, and you got community. Those are the four main things that we have devised are the most important to an individual's in existence.
Shall I go get the map? I actually still have the map you gave me.
You can if you'd like to, but like, you know, Vishnu, Krishna, fucking Buddha, Jesus, they all fucked off for 40 days or 7 years, and they all came back and were like, it's all of us. So there's no point in sitting there and being like, you know, I've got to go live in the bush and it's going to do the least harm, because what happens is you can go batshit crazy and like do more detriment. But when you, like, moving on to site, so those are the four things that you've got to cater for first. And I've got lots of friends that have bought lots of massive properties, and they went into it with just the money to purchase the property, and they've been sort of stagnant for about 2 years. So when these things are devised, you've got to make sure that all of that stuff is accounted for, so that when you moving on is not like the last thing you do. And like I say, and then making sure that you do skill audits on who's on the community. So then you've got a basis. Then you can actually sit there and say, okay, we're lacking here, or we have too much here. And if you have a whole bunch of these communities that set up in this fashion, which is what Levity Collective is about,
yes,
what you end up doing is you have a massive skill database that these communities can then also start sharing.
Yep.
But the way that we've tried to create these is each community has its skill base, each community has its permanent members, and those permanent members with their skill base can then offer tutelage or training. And that's where the economy comes in. So you have outside people coming in to pay, which then helps the community function. And with any excess, the way that the community is set up, it's not like the social agenda now where there's you're charged the maximum at the shelf, and therefore the people at the top of the table get all the cut and you don't. So the idea is to proliferate that capital back through the community, and any excess can then also regenerate itself. So basically they start acting like amoebas, where they start shaking a little bit and another one pops up. So these communities can then self-fund themselves with this modelling, which at the moment I live in probably the area with quite possibly the most MOs, which are multiple occupancy communities in the world right now. And they all have their pros, but they all have their cons. And the one thing that none of them have been set up is economical, so that the members within the community can focus on the community. And you'll all find it in your daily lives. What happens is we're being split into these nucleic families with 2 to 5 children, and you've got to go out and work 5 to 7 days a week just to earn an income to pay for that household to exist.
Mm-hmm.
So things like if you were growing your own garden, like I know that for my family of 3, we spend about $150 a week on food. And we've brought that right down. So the gardens are just getting in, but there's probably $60 to $80 worth of fruit and vegetables that are in that shopping. That's about to be completely free. So then what I have is a saving of $60 to $80. Then if I start inviting my friends and plant my garden out so that I have abundance, I can put a jar on my garden and go, hey, 10, 20 bucks a week, why don't you come out and visit and do your shopping? And then that itself can proliferate, right? So it saves people an expense, but it also, you know, that side of it. And when you have a community that's growing like that, 3 times more abundance at what it needs, yada, yada, very much like the Ubuntu model, things start happening. Except what we're doing at the moment is we're still trying to fully interplay in the game or in the system, rather than extracting ourselves into a body or an entity that we create for ourselves that is the interplay with the system. So what we're all doing is individually banging our heads against the wall, much like the stuff that's going on with this white supremacist shit in fucking America, where you've got one side going, yeah, but like what I know, we've talked about this lots, D, but what you have there, right, is you got one side going, white lives matter. Then you got this other side going, black lives matter. And then you got, you know, police going, we're told to stand in between you. So there's 3 factions at least there. But what's happening? They're all going against the same thing. They're not going against each other. And if they were all then to sit there and go, fucking lives matter, and point the finger at who's creating the process that's creating this divide, they'd realize that it didn't matter that they were white supremacists or fucking Black Panthers and da-da-da-da-da. They'd all realize that they're human beings and that there's people that are pushing these agendas.
Yep.
And it's the agendas that need to be fought against, not each other.
Yep.
Because there's no ethical basis in society.
Because there's no ethical basis. Yeah, exactly. But listen, Ben and I have spent probably hundreds of hours in Australia talking about this. And his Levity Collective, the stuff that he was working on and we discussed for so many hours, is freaking awesome. And it is something that, I mean, this is kind of one of the foundational points of like what I want to kind of start working to implement. This basis point where you go in with a plan. It's not just get a piece of land and throw everyone on it and go, okay, what do we do now? It's got to be planned out. It's got to be one of those things where you work into all of this stuff, because I've watched people and been a part of people doing this where you jump with both feet with no planning ahead of time. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like Ben said, we know people in Australia who have done that, where they've put every last penny into buying this piece of land and they're all ready, they want to do this, and they've done nothing for 2 years because they don't have a penny. Every bit of money went into buying a piece of land, and it left them destitute in a place where there's no place to earn money. We can't. This is about taking action responsibly. And being responsible is being responsible to ourselves and being responsible to all the people that we're with. Creating something that is truly viable, that can work. It's based on research and fully comprehending all the aspects of it, all the aspects of what can be done.
Do you know what my biggest sort of awakening has been, or my biggest, I guess, the meme playing through my brain is when I look at who we are, what we are, where we come from, and what's going on. The one thing that comes through to me is that everyone on this planet comes here with compassion, regardless of what type of entity they are. Draconian, fucking Andromedan, Galactic Federation, they all come here with compassion. All of them. In human form. Right? Now, because of that compassion, there's something else that has to override it to turn to turn us into what they deem as human nature, which is this whole fucking fighting feudal bullshit, right? That doesn't happen in nature.
Nope.
It doesn't. Right? So from that compassionate point, what I started looking at was this meme of individualism and how you've got to focus on you and you are number one and da-da-da-da-da-da through this sort of new age movement. I went, hold on a second. Okay, it is about me, but do I not owe it to every other entity to have the best experience here that they can possibly have without influencing or taking away from their experience? My analogy for that is the coffee cup. The coffee cup at the sink. You have a bunch of people come over. Watch who rinses their cups.
Mm-hmm.
And watch who leaves it on the bench. Because those that leave it on the bench, this is not done consciously, but those that leave it on the bench have just taken time out of your time, which means that your experience is then being affected by their coffee cup. Which I know might sound menial, but you try having fucking 20 people over for a cup of tea and have one person rinse that cup out.
Yep.
So for me, this experience...
You know what? That is actually... It's so menial that it's intrinsic.
Yep.
Intrinsic.
It's a micro. It's a micro of the macro.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that for
me, geez, we're back in Ostrom. Exactly. And yeah, you know why I so love his whole thing about the coffee cup. Because I used to start here, Danny, going, who hasn't done dishes this week? You.
Yeah.
Get your ass in the kitchen, go do dishes.
So, you know, and if everyone started looking at things a little bit more like that, you would then realize that, like, you know, it's not about whether you like gardening or want to garden, but how many people's experiences here are being altered or affected by the fact that we have become so complacent that a supermarket is there.
Mm-hmm.
Those farmers are unable to have their full experience because they're providing for everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, like when you start putting it into those kind of contexts, it becomes quite massive.
Yeah.
How much impact am I having on my friends, my family, my children and everything else because I haven't got my shit sorted?
Yeah.
And that's where most of our stress and everything comes from. And that's where a community based on an audit of its skills and resources becomes even more beneficial. You know, me and you spoke, Danny, it's like Nimbin, for instance. There is 1,000 people that live in Nimbin permanently or thereabouts. If each one of those people were to do 3 hours a day each, that's 3,000 hours a day. I don't even know how many days that is in a day, you know.
Yep.
But let's say you split that down to a 5-day work week. That's 600 hours a day. That's almost 30 days worth of work in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, like I say, 3 hours a day per person. That's only 200 people working a day. Now, if you were to organize that based around, okay, there's a fucking potholes and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, you could have 50 people doing gardening, 50 people doing community maintenance, 50 people doing this, 50 people doing that. And if it's organized, it will all get done in that 3 hours.
It'll be done in 3 hours. It will all get done. Exactly. Fuck these 10-hour days. No, 3 hours.
And well, I don't even know how many hours there are in a week. 7 hours, you know, 200, let's say 200 hours in a week. In that 5-day work week, you've done a month's worth of work in a day. Like when you start looking at it like this is where it's at. And if it's organized, it can happen fast, real fast. You've seen I think we call them emu parades, where, like, you know, you have a festival and at the end of the festival you get in a massive line of people and you walk across the whole kind of thing with a rubbish bag and you can clean it up in like hours. However, if everyone had fucking put the rubbish in the bin at the start of the festival, you wouldn't need the emu line, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of where it's at. It's how deep is your responsibility? And not just your responsibility to you, your responsibility to everyone else around you to take care of your shit so it doesn't impact.
Yep. Personal responsibility. I keep going on about it. Like, that is one of the things. Common courtesy is uncommon, and personal responsibility is something that has become almost unheard of. People don't understand the concept of even the simplicity of the microbe. Like you say, you have a cup of tea, you rinse your cup, and you put it on the drain board. Right? But this is the type of thing that I'm talking about. Doesn't require beliefs. Doesn't require everyone believing the same thing. All it requires is people to have an understanding of this is how the community works. This is what it means to be part of this community. And it doesn't mean that everyone has to garden, because some people, maybe they've got a bad back. Maybe they've got a bad back and they can't bend over and do something like that. But you know what? That same person may do really, really well, I don't know, driving a tractor, or can do something that's completely different. Everyone has a skill set, and that's what Ben was talking about. Everyone has a skill, and I mean that literally, everyone has a skill set. So we've got people here in our group, right here and now, who may not be able to physically get up and pick up a shovel and dig a trench, or fill a pothole, or dig a garden, etc. But I know that they all have other skills. Even if it's reading books to the kids while the parents are digging the trench or working in the garden.
Fucking biggest skill there is.
Exactly. Can you read a book to the kids? Can you sit on a chair and finger paint with a bunch of kids and tell them stories about whatever for 2 hours while the parents are, cooking or gardening or building free energy devices or whatever? Every single person has skills. It doesn't matter how young or old you are, and it doesn't matter what your physical capabilities are. Everyone has skills, and everyone has something to offer.
Yeah, I mean, look, put it this way. The garden that we've only been on this property, I think it's coming up 3 months. So we moved during the floods with landslides and every fucking thing like that. But I now have created a garden and tidied up the orchard that was here. And I probably have enough space in my garden now, which I'll show you guys at a later date once it's sort of looking a bit prettier, because I've just put in a whole fuckload of... But I should be able to feed 5 families. And I built that with my own hands, because I have friends that always go, you always like using machinery. So I went, oh, well, fuck you, I'll dig it all then. And I've dug this whole garden, but there should be enough, at least 5 families. And that's 5 families with 2 kids in each.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It really isn't hard. None of it's actually very hard. And see, this is the other side of it, is people will probably have skill bases that they don't even know that they had. They might call it a passion or a hobby right now, but they're not able to focus on it because of the way that the system is placed.
Yep. But not even that.
So
they don't even know skills that they had as an... You could have a skill
because they haven't had a chance to look at anything other than what they're looking at.
Exactly. Because they could turn around and all of a sudden you can go, oh my God, no. Stacey's in charge of doing menu design for this week, because she's actually got it like an intrinsic understanding that if we have 75 people, that we're going to need this many pounds of potatoes dug out of the garden this week. And you may not realize that you have that understanding until someone gives you the opportunity to go, exactly. Okay, it's going to be this. And I'm going to look at you and go, holy shit, I can't do that.
Exactly. See, and that's the whole thing that I keep. That's the one thing that buzzes me out more than fucking anything is the simple aspect that we just don't know. Because while all of this stuff is looming over us, we don't know the actual impact of it.
Yeah.
Like I can actually show people that there is a 1,300-foot dome somewhere in Antarctica. They've written about it. They actually have a measurement device that measures it. I can show that there is an evil thing called a graticle that has been put in place that our map has been put on. Like, I can show all of these things in writing. They wrote about it. I'm not making it up. It's not something I channeled. I just read it. Right? So we can show all of these things are in place, but while they're, let's say, in place and unnoticed or unacknowledged, we don't know what those impacts are.
Yeah.
Do you get where I'm going? So, like, we'll go back to, like, what we were talking about a while back about, like, the education side of things, right? It's like females are able to turn off their cycles.
Yeah.
And reabsorb the egg and not menstruate. Now, that egg is one half of a universe, ladies. Men, orgasm, ejaculation and orgasm are two separate things. The seed or the sperm is another half of that universe. If we're able to reabsorb half of a universe, just that alone, what the fuck would that do? We just don't know. But there's a whole half a universe that you've just reabsorbed. And as far as like on health, we just don't know. It's like the renders and the insulation that we're working on with hemp. They will negatively ionize the air in your house. They will make it like you are living in Earth. What will that do to your, it's not just mold resistant, bacterial resistant and have CO2 drawdown. It's anti-termite and it will de-ionize your air.
Yep.
As far as health goes,
we don't know what that's going to be. Yep.
We don't know because we haven't been there for so long ago. However, my research and the elders that I've spoken to have all verified that it was peaceful and every motherfucker was healthy. So when you aren't fighting with disease or interference and people are taking part in their existence and creating less impact on yours, what does that do?
Yeah.
Let your brain go there because it buzzes me out every time. And it's the only thing that's really kept me going because the potential that people don't see in themselves is amazing.
Yep.
Like that side of it is amazing. I don't mean them not seeing it. I mean the potential that they don't see in themselves is amazing.
Yeah. No, we don't know what we don't know. If you take a group of people, and it doesn't even matter really what their health is to begin with when they walk onto that piece of land. They could be sick. They could be full of fucking parasites. They could be full of vaccine derivatives and chemtrail shit. And we could have completely polluted bottles. And we could even have nanotechnology running through us the whole bit. But you put that group of people in a place where all of a sudden their living situation is geared solely towards
abundance.
Towards abundance and towards the positive. Things like the little things that we say, the micro, that you may not even think about, i.e. everyone being responsible for themselves, i.e. living in a place where you are breathing clean air, where you are eating good food that you grew. Just knowing, just understanding, comprehending everything that we just had for dinner today, we created, we grew it, however you want to look at it, we picked it, we nurtured it. You think about that, the nurturing, the whole understanding of like the concept of water and how much water carries emotion. Think about the nurturing of plants, and we talk about this. I mean, everyone used to teach me in Australia because I talk to the plants all the time. But put that into comprehension. If you look at that and say, you're eating food that has been nurtured. You're breathing air. You're sharing the energy fields of everyone around you who's all expanding because they're all going through the same thing you're going through.
And
yeah, exactly. Mia just said, it's like what Anastasia says in the Ringing Cedars series. And that's come up 3 times for me this week alone, the Ringing Cedars of the Anastasia series. So I think I'm going to have to reread it again. Put the seeds in your mouth before you sow, and the plant will produce what you need for any required healing properties.
Mm-hmm. See, now, if you then to, let's say, direct grey water, so from showers, dishwashing and all that, guess what's in that water? Your DNA.
Yep.
Plants and mycelium and bacteria read your DNA because it's part of the environment.
Yep.
What they then do is they transmute what's needed for the environment, not just the soil. This is why Anastasia talks about walking in the garden with your bare feet. Why? Because your biggest excreting organ is actually through your feet.
Yep.
Through your feet.
Yep.
And the mycelium, like I think Paul Stamets is within seconds of hikers walking through the forest, when they break or kill a plant, mycelium literally react within seconds and start moving there to start transmuting it to what's needed next. On the note of like hierarchical structures and that kind of thing too, is what we work on is what Bill Mollison talks about in his designer's manual. There you go. It's a designer's manual again.
What's the name of the book?
Basically,
because that's the book that, and I've tried to remember that myself.
Permaculture, the Designer's Manual by Bill Mollison, 1983, I think he released that. But essentially what the model we look at is there's no hierarchical structure. So after you've done your audit on resource and skills, you then can start developing the map or fitting yourself into the map, which Dee was talking about, which is basically 9 support groups. Now, the way that we combat a hierarchical structure is what we have is once you've done your skill audit, you will find out who the experts in each one of those fields are. Now, what we do is in those support groups is we put 3 people that are experts in those fields, and they are the ones that are in charge of that field based on the ethical basis of things. So it doesn't mean that more people aren't allowed in to learn skills. What it's saying is the people that are passionate and have those skills get to focus on it. What then that develops is, as far as a foundational platform for your community, you have the best starting point. So it reverse engineers the current schooling system, which is you all get this playing field to start from, and you'll get it beaten into you. So they don't talk about Nassim Harriman, and they don't talk about Steiner and Schauberger and Tesla and stuff at school and science and all that kind of stuff. They don't talk about Taoism and that kind of things in sex ed. So when those are your starting points, that's where you have your Platos and all that start coming back out. Because what you're doing is you're providing the platform or the starting point of that platform in its highest place, not in its lowest place. And that there changes everything again. And that doesn't mean, at primary school, kids are going to be taught calculus and fucking physics and chemistry and da-da-da-da, because they will learn that regardless because it's there.
Yep.
The schooling blocks what you can actually see. But when you have the best starting point as opposed to the dictated lowest starting point, once again, that changes everything.
Yeah.
If you were told that you came in on this energy line from this constellation or behind that constellation, because I've just been told that the zodiacs are actually the ruse. It's what's just behind the zodiacs that are the fucking main points. But if you had these other things as starting points, as opposed to someone going, oh, you're a Virgo, you're organized and anal and OCD. It's sort of like, well, hang on a second. They may be traits, but that's not what I am.
Yes.
And if you had a better understanding of what those traits and skill bases could do for you as opposed to defining you, what does that do? So when you come from that starting point of the latest facts and information, where does that, like the stuff that I've been learning that I could have probably learned in high school that I'm only just learning now. I mean, they make more sense now. I probably would have blown some shit up at high school. But if you're given it in a context that makes sense. Like, you have nature in front of you, and when you start to be able to be explained the interaction and the correlations between all those things in nature, then the environment, or what I classify as the environment, which is the natural coding of here, starts showing itself. And then that is a starting point. What does that do? So there's all these different starting points that when you start correlating and putting them all together, other things start happening. And when you have that as a starting point, what does that do for you? Especially when you have a group of people that are on the same page. Because things really starts fucking flying then.
Yep. Yeah. That's the very long-winded, an hour and 15 minutes of us discussing it all. But that's basically it. Making plans, moving forward. And they may not happen tomorrow, and they may not happen next month. But starting to make plans and moving forward.
All right.
Discussing
Ben a question.
Sorry,
Ben,
Don?
does Ben hear me?
I hear you.
Hey, Ben. What I was trying to say is I was in Beneficio. It was a hippie community in Andalusia in south of Spain, living in tippies. And what they did is grow crops. And like you said, we brought money from outside by busking in tourist places. So we brought that money to materialize our vegetable garden. So you got like Babylon money, and you transform that into your community, into tangible goods for your community.
Yep.
And I think if we want to start a community, we're going to have to start half Babylon, half our ideas, and then build up our own fish farms, our own crop growing, our own drum circles, meditation, yoga, energetic healing, all that stuff. Which I think there's a lot of skills, like you said, there's a lot of skills involved. And I think everybody can contribute with the skills. So yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head there, Ben. Yeah.
So I just want to add there. Now, just remember, you may call it Babylon money, and I totally agree with you. But it's what you do with that money that makes it Babylon or not, right?
Exactly.
Because you can create Zion. You can create Zion with it. Because if you remember that it's a currency, regardless of whether it's Babylonian or Zion currency, and I use Zion as in Bob Marley, not as in their mother mobs. The idea being is it's a currency. It's an energy form. It is a symbolic gesture of your time.
Yep.
Where you send that Babylonian currency,
yep.
If you send it on their time, you're playing their game. You can transfer that energy into whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So don't think of it as a bad thing. It's a tool. It is merely a tool. And there are other tools that can help you utilize that tool to create a better thing.
Yep. And create better tools.
Now, does anyone, like, I don't know, I didn't think it was that long ago. I'm pretty sure it was only about 12 months ago. Does anyone remember the Panama Papers?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What were they about?
Money.
What were they about? They were about trusts.
Yep.
That was the biggest outing in my research of how the system works. The second thing I'll say is everyone might be hating on old Trump, but he's showing you the other piece to the puzzle. And as far as I'm concerned, it's almost the ultimate piece, which is you haven't got a man up on stage speaking. You have a franchise, people.
Corporate franchise.
You have a franchise, a corporate franchise fronting a corporate country. The ultimate thing is to franchise a model, whether it was a community or a person, and I mean the legal side of person, because then what you have is something to exist under and act under and fucking hold no liability in the system.
Yeah. And that goes into, you and I discussed this.
And over the after the last 12 to 15 months, I'm quite serious here. Like, this is where because I've started being like, oh, fuck it. You know, I don't care anymore what I say. But they have outed their entire system. The whole fucking lot.
Yeah.
From woe to go. 2,000 plus years ago to now. And it's out on front stage now. It's out on front stage. We have franchises that are doing battle. Last year we had corporations trying to treaty with governments. Like, it's all out on show here.
And this is...
It's all out on show. And
Carl
it's all it will... Look...
We need to do a whole show with Ben just going into that aspect of it, because that the shit that Ben's been working on and the trust aspect of it and the shit that they've been uncovering down there in Australia about how this fucking shit works and how to basically, creating the trust that is the community, that it therefore no one in the community actually deals with the governments. The trust does. And they've kind of created like that little lovely little franchise there. It's all right there in front of us of how you can actually do it the exact same way. And
I've always said it's not about...
So go ahead, Ben.
I've always said it's not about the content. It's about the process.
Yeah.
So if you look at the key players in the system, and I don't mean the individuals.
No.
Because what you've got to understand is these individuals create something to act under. They might create, I don't know, an international monetary fund or a Federal Reserve Bank or a nation state.
Yeah. Or a
country.
Corporation.
Like these are all the same things. They're not different. They're all the same things. So then that looks really good, Doppy. Licking the plate, I fucking love it. It's fucking awesome. He's cleaning it before it even gets to the sink. Well done.
Even better.
Yeah, it's all out in plain sight. If you look at how they created the church, if you look at how they created the United Kingdom, or England for that matter, if you look at how they created the States, and then the United States, or Australia, or New Zealand, or Canada, or look at how they created the East India Company, the West Virginia Company, the Commonwealth. They're all the fucking same thing. Look at how they create a business, like a proprietary limited.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how they create a trust. Now, are any of those things in their process different? No, not one. Not one of them. They all have a charter. They all have directors, trustees, beneficiaries. Do you start to see the picture here? All of them. All of them. All those nation states. So if you start really looking at the process, not the content, the process, it's all in plain sight. You know, the not that we want to go there at all, D, but like the sovereignty, the Freeman movement, right?
Yep.
Their big thing, the big year for them is 1933. And I still, like, I get why, because there's certain documents, but all they do is they back up a certain process. Whereas that's where they sit there and say, oh, corporate America was created, blah, 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 blah. Hang on, I've got 3 documents from the 1600s from one man that set that place up as a for-profit business with shareholders and stakeholders.
Yep.
In 1603. So to sit there and look at America being corporatized in 1933, maybe corporatized into a certain fashion, system, or function, but it was always corporate.
Yep.
And it has been for fucking 500 years, nearly. So when you start looking at that process, everything changes. Everything.
Yeah.
Fuck me, that is what made the Dutch rich, you know what I'm saying? They started VOC and VIC and WIC, the West Indian Company and United East Indian Company. They started to import pepper and shit, you know, and they got fucking rich. They were one of the first multinationals on this planet.
Londinium has existed as a corporate entity for 2,000 years.
2,000 years, just slightly less or slightly more now.
Yeah, just slightly less.
Less.
46 AD, I think it was.
Yep.
Fucking Romans, eh?
Or was it? Or was it?
Or was it? Exactly. Therein goes the question. Then we go into the history of like, and what really is our history?
Because see, that's the funny thing. You got to remember the Romans never touched London. They gave London free pass. What does that tell you? Even I think it was is it William the Conqueror in 11 I think it's like 11 fucking in the 1100s gave free passage to London, just going, respect, we're going to blow these other fuckers up around you, but you just stay there. You know, so there's yeah, it's funny, like I say, but don't worry about that shit. That's just the content. What's the process?
Yeah.
What's the process? And then from that process, what's the outcome? And we've already got the outcome. So if you were to just, you know, let's say shift its focus 45 degrees, you know, if you stood looking at north, only in the northern hemisphere would you see the North Star for starters, but if you kept looking, you'd miss the sunrise, which is 45 degrees. So, you know, you just shift that focus and look at the process.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, that's where it all starts showing itself. The other side of things is a whole other side of things.
Yeah.
But as far as the system and being here, yeah, it's pretty all on for show. It's pretty all on for show.
And that's it. Like,
sorry,
the comment was made earlier on about, you know, you don't want to work with the system. We want to work, you know, we want to work outside the system. We don't want to be part of that system. And absolutely, none of us does. I mean, hence the fact of why we're looking for Unfuckers Island, so that we don't have to be part of that system. But in the meantime, while the system is in existence, as it is at this moment, regardless of what kind of condition it's in, it's still in our daily lives at this moment. Then we have to work to a certain extent within that system. And it becomes back to...
Well, we just have to work smarter.
Huh?
Just have to work smarter.
Yeah, exactly. How do you then work with that system? And you don't have to feed that system per se. but it's doing it smartly, doing it in a way that makes the most sense, and is using their rules, right? Just using their rules. And if that means in the now that we can have the at least semi-autonomous existence that we want to have, then that's what we do. I mean, that's the way to move forward. Because I would love, it's kind of like the comment I said to Joppy earlier, in the fact of like, I would love an island, manifest an island pops up in the South Pacific somewhere perfect. It is the perfect temperature. It is the perfect climate, and it's absolutely perfect. I want it to work that way. Absolutely. But I'm not willing to wait. I want to do it now. So I would love the whole system to come tumbling down and disappear overnight, so that we never, ever have to deal with it again. Because you know what?
How many?
Suck the money out.
How many people would that freak out?
Suck their money away and use it for our own purpose. So their money will never get back to them.
Well, I mean,
we suck their money and use it for our own purpose.
Bitcoin's working on that.
Okay, well, this is the whole thing, though. Doppy, you're right. And that's the part of it, right? You're bringing it within, let's say you talk about, sucking the money out of their system and bringing it within the community to support your community. Because you're right. You're taking it out of their system. So like 99.9% of the money works in that, or we talked about this a few weeks ago, that upper top part of the pyramid. It all stays there. And this guy trades with this guy, and this stock goes up, and this one goes down, and this currency goes up, and this one goes down, and this gains, and this falls. But it doesn't matter. The money still stays at the very top of the fucking pyramid. You pull it out of there, totally using their rules, and you put it in your own system, and you support your own system.
Bitcoin's working on that.
Yeah, no, so here's interesting. Have you had a chance to catch up? There was an article, and I haven't had a chance to watch the video yet. I've been trying for a week, and I just actually found the video again, and my computer did a full shutdown, and I've lost it, and I'll have to go find it again. About the new Chinese blockchain. They are digitizing all assets and making a cryptocurrency. Have you read about this, Ben? Okay,
Nah,
I will find you the link, and I'll send it to you, because there's some interesting pieces in there. And the name of, hold on, the name of the company is, hold on, it is called acchain.org, and they have a lovely little 4-minute video that you can watch. And guess who does
Oh my God!
Guess who does the music for it?
Trent Reznor.
No, yeah,
fuck.
it's fucking Pussifer, as Mama said. And I'm like,
What did you? Hang on. Oi. What did you just say? Wait, fucking hell. Washington D.C.
Yeah.
D.C. being the operative. Fuck what it means. D.C. What did you just say this thing's called?
AC chain. Is it AC?
And what did I just say? It's a current, right?
Yeah, it's a current.
AC/DC. Thunderstruck.
No. I know. I could see the air guitars already going in the background, even those of you who have videos on.
Philip in the chat said Bitcoin is the same but different label. You're quite kind of right. However, at the same time, what crypto or what Bitcoin or what the blockchain is doing is making the players anonymous. If everyone in the world was to invest all their money into Bitcoin right now, the fiat currency would all be owned by Bitcoin, and all your purchases would be done anonymously. Not even Bitcoin could actually tell who was making these purchases. So as much as it could look bad or is another control factor at the same time as well, it all comes down to the process of it, right? So if Bitcoin is, let's say, part of the let's just say the Illuminati regime styled thing, then yeah, totally fucking shit, fucking, you know, oh no. However, at the same time, if it is being provided as what it states, an autonomous way of fast transactions, it's actually doing what a certain Kitty Campbell was looking at trying to do with a certain credit exchange at one point. It's the same as what, in fact, it's the same as what these people are kind of trying to do with these TDA, you know, Treasury Direct accounts. They're trying to get access to funds to do stuff. Now, I know Bitcoin is a purchase, but at the moment, if you've already got money, a smart thing might be to divest out of the current Federal Reserve System. And by me saying that, I'm not saying go buy Bitcoin. However, if you look at what it actually is, it is quite possibly an autonomous way for people to conduct themselves in commerce. But once again, it all depends on where it's being directed, correct? I mean, that one, because you've got to always remember, always remember that 0.01% or whatever the fucking number is, are the most indebted people on this planet.
Yep.
They ain't rich. They have more debt. And when everyone wakes up to that fact, they have more debt than anything. Yep. So the Rothschilds, they might have big houses and shit, but they just have a title. They have more debt than all of the rest of the 99.99 or whatever % have combined. More debt.
Right. But as Carl says, but they have the power right now, though. Absolutely.
Well,
because the perception.
They're creating things. Exactly. Exactly.
Perception. But as things are becoming transparent, and things are really, really becoming fucking transparent right now, like on every fucking level everywhere, then more and more people are seeing it. More and more people are starting to comprehend exactly how these systems work. Now, you guys all know I don't like Bitcoin. I don't trust Bitcoin. Too many bits and pieces of information coming out or came out years and years ago about who's controlling it, who's got their fingers in the pie. Does that mean all the cryptocurrencies are bad? No, I don't think so. I think there's some fucking really good ones. Is there a chance that perhaps some of these could be utilized? Yeah, they could be. It's actually something I'm going to be looking into. Nick and I are going to be looking into some of the cryptocurrencies and looking and saying, okay, look, is there a chance that we can somehow make some money, pull it out of that system in order to start what we want to start, what we want to build? And they will be, Carl, you're absolutely right, they will be co-opted. That doesn't mean you still can't use the tool. A gun can be co-opted too. It's still the person using it. Whether you're using a fucking dollar bill or a Bitcoin or whatever, they're all part of the system. Every single one of them, even Ethereum or any of these other cryptocurrencies, they're still tradable into dollars, which means in order to go, you make your money on it, you trade it into dollars to go to the store to buy a loaf of bread, to put gas in your car, to buy a house. It's still all part of the same system.
Exactly.
But we also can use the system, and if we have to figure out a way to use the system, and use it as pulling the cash out of it, pulling the energy, more importantly, out of the system to put into our own system, I'm all for that. And it doesn't mean you jump in, you don't, cash in all my dinar and don. Yeah, right, Mia, you're funny. You're funny. Yeah, I'm going to have a lovely pink bathroom one day. One day I'm going to have a bathroom and I'm going to use that dinar as wallpaper.
So one thing I've sort of been toying with and playing with in my head, and this is one thing that I'll talk to you now, Dee, about it. I'll bring it up and people can see what they fucking think. But essentially, like, you know, the whole Unfuckers Island or the Levity Collective Community Model or fucking New Earth Project or any of these things, the 3D version, and I mean like on ground version, seems to have been the hardest part for us all to come up with. So what I've actually sort of been toying with, and you and I have briefly spoken, and because of my internet issues and whatnot, haven't been able to speak further. But as far as a concept, goes, I have started thinking, why do we need a 3D version when we have technology at our hands? And why don't we look into the application of creating a virtual community?
That's what I'm trying.
And that virtual community having numbers. So then when it comes to ideas of things like free energy or water cleaning stuff or Keshi Tech, and I'm just using these as names for stuff at the moment, right? Not trying to like sell it. But if we were to, let's say, have, I don't know, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, 250,000 people. These are numbers of like large cities. Now, as far as buying power goes, if people in this community were to then crowdfund or advertise their idea or where to be then open sourced, things like if you had 100,000 people and someone needed $1 million, that's like $10 each. Do you see where I'm going with this? So if we have an online community, no longer fucking, oh, I'd love to help, but it's when you start, the more numbers you get, the less it becomes a burden. Yep. So when you've got 100,000 people putting in 50 cents each, you've got $50,000. You get 100,000 people putting $100 in each. Like that shit's world changing there.
Yeah.
That is world changing.
Yeah.
This is one thing I've never understood up until sort of very recently, why you have people like Elon Musk and all these sorts of people, these multi-billionaires that don't just set something up. And I've always wondered it. And when Carl was over here last, because we've been working on those capacitors, right, on these hemp-based biocarbon capacitors, one of the companies that we were following that we found that was probably the closest to what we were looking at competing with was a saltwater capillary, right? Yeah. And Carl was quite excited because they'd launched the company. It was all starting to go. They'd started to launch stocks. Within 3 weeks of being here, that company was going into liquidation. So we started looking at why this company had gone into liquidation. And then we looked further, and guess who its number one investor was?
Who?
Bill Gates. Bill Gates had invested $14 million in the launch of this company, and just as they'd launched, he pulled all his funding, which then all the stock, people that held stock sold out. So the company went into liquidation.
And they do that?
And Carl was like, well, people were like, why the fuck would he do that? It's like, but this is it, because what it does is just by his maneuver, it downgrades all that technology.
Yep.
So if we were to have someone that had that kind of technology within a group of 100,000 to 250,000 to 1 million to, whatever, that were then able to, you can showcase and go, look, there's this many of us, it's 50 cents each. Everyone can just go boing and it would be there instantly.
Yep.
And we're not looking over our fences. None of us actually have to worry, I'd love to put $50 in. It's 50 cents. And if we can start looking at something like that, then this virtual community can then transpire and transmute itself to become 3D.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, you and I had this conversation. It's why crowdfunding works. Because when it's one person trying to raise $1,000, $2,000, $10,000, $100,000, it's daunting. But if you have 1,000 people even, and someone needs $1,000 and everyone goes, here's $1, which is less than a cup of coffee. Everyone's got $1. And you go, there's $1. That person is now taking
less than a cup of coffee in Africa.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got, you know, like Ben said, if you've got 10,000 people in a group and someone says, hey, I want to move forward on this project. I've got it all here. What I need is I need $10,000 to get this up going. And look, here it all is. It's all laid out. This is what I can do. And again, 10,000 people go, okay, well, here's $1. It takes nothing from us. It takes nothing. And yet you've just made a substantial change, and a substantial change that within your community could then create substantial change.
In the collective.
Within the collective, exactly. Because then that guy who's got, you know, Nick and his crystal batteries, the reason Nick has never finished his crystal batteries is we don't have the money. We don't have the money. And it's not even a lot of money necessary, but it still comes down to needing money.
But so then pull it out of that financial real quickly and be like, how much trust does that then build in that massive group?
Exactly. Because then it becomes
not the
this group has over in the course of a year, this group of 10,000 people have funded the startup of this desalination plant and this free energy device. Alternative energy device. This healing modality. They have got this done and this and this, and now all of a sudden you have a group that has got some serious energy behind it. Not money, it doesn't matter about the money. They've got serious energy behind it. Because now anyone who has a really good idea is going to come to you. And anyone who wants to be involved in actually getting these, truly wanting to get changes made, are going to come to you because you've already done it. You've already shown that you can do it. The 10,000 people can donate $1 and make a radical change happen.
Exactly.
It's not about the distribution and someone controls the money. That's not it. The idea is exactly what we literally just said. Someone needs $5,000 to get the capital up to get something going. Everyone puts the money in. It's a donation. You're giving into it.
Yeah, we're not talking about setting up Amnesty International and then going pay $1 here and then we'll give it to the Africans, but they only get 0.5 cents. What I'm saying is like, hypothetically, in your mind's eye, you're a member of, let's say, something called Face Crack. But Face Crack isn't mining for mega data and how to manipulate sales on you. It's just going, hey, there's all these cool cats out there and this is all the cool shit they're doing, and oh, look, this cool cat needs 10 grand and there's 100,000 of you. If you all put 10 cents in, he's got it. And then that thing might be a cell phone that works on earth frequencies and doesn't need satellites and fucking doesn't care about hills and trees and buildings being in the way. And then it's done. And that thing then might, because it's created and hasn't had to go through all this shit, may only cost $100.
Yep.
So then that person can then go and take pre-orders and they're just made to order basically, as opposed to creating 1 billion of these things and only selling 100,000 of them, and then the fucking however much left from what the first number I said is left and goes into the bin and and doesn't get reused and fucking yada yada yada, blah blah blah, poison, blah blah blah, cancer on the earth, blah blah blah. It's like, if you have a community based on this stuff, what you end up having is like, you need that phone. My last phone broke down. Okay, we'll throw that phone in the compost and buy another one for $100. But it'll get sent out to you in 14 days because we're going to make it because you ordered it.
Yeah.
It's just literally reverse engineering. So what, like Doppy was saying earlier, you might have buskers that go out and busk to earn some money, But if you then also create 3 times more than what your actual community needs, your community can set up a market and sell to the greater community, and then transverse that greater community's money into more.
Yep.
Do you see what I mean? So if we stop looking at money and monetized things as currency and just energy flow, which is, in my eyes, from all the research I've done, money is the 3D symbol for time. That's what it is.
Yep. Yep.
It's nothing more than that.
Yep.
So your time or your energy has been given a timestamp, and you have 24 hours to exist in, and then it's been cut up. You go get a job, and this is the timestamp for that, and someone gives you money for that. You're not on your time. You're on somebody else's time.
Yeah.
So if you then use the currency...
I have to run away, Ben. You talk.
For a second.
You're losing time, isn't it, Ben? Because when you're in a job, you're losing time. While you could voluntarily, like you say, work for the community, and you make loads of hours, and now you work all week long, losing time, and you still got shit to show for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, you're right, and this is like where I find ourselves is we're in a place where what we've got to do is we've got to define how we dialogue. So time, it really isn't anything other than you needing to be on someone else's, right? What is the time frame for? You only need to know when 11 o'clock is as if you've got something on at 11 o'clock, whether you've got to be at work or you're meeting someone. If you're on your own time, does 11 o'clock matter? No. So all that, they've literally just created this thing where time exists, or this thing called Greenwich time exists, and they've monetized it. It's all just energy, and that they're just directing it by that. So if you look at money as a currency, as an energy form, and we start utilizing our will to direct that currency, that changes everything. It doesn't matter whether the IMF's fucking in place. It doesn't matter whether your country's run by a Federal Reserve Bank, because if your input and direction of that currency is towards what you and your community need,
yep,
that's all that matters. None of the rest of it matters. They're all just symbols for something else.
Yeah.
It's like I say, technically in our day, right, we've got sunrise to sunset. That's our daylight. It's not daytime, it's daylight.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because daytime is something else. Daytime is between the hours of, let's say, 5 in the morning and fucking 5 at night or 6 at night, depending on what season you're in, right? You see where I'm going with this? It's all just a symbol for something else. But if you take back your time and you direct that currency, things start changing.
Life would be so much better, man.
Life is better, bro.
Yeah. Like I said, we don't know. We don't know. This is the category. What is the exponential change that comes from this?
Exactly. Well, look, for me, and I'll talk of the subjective or the personal thing. Like I'm a professional chef and have been for 20 years now. I've worked around the world. I've been offered TV shows, I've now worked 2 days a week, which squares out all my bills. I have no leisure money, nothing like that. But I've done that so that I can then research what I need to research, implement what I've researched, and dig fucking holes all over the place and put stuff in it. That's what I've done. And it's quite weird, because the more I've stepped into that, the more I've realized how much impact I have on other people. right? But I've just started, and then what I've also found from that is when I've realized that I need a little bit more, let's say, currency, the minute that I realize and acknowledge that, and then let go of the fact that I don't actually need it, someone will phone me and go, I need you to come and fucking dig a hole here. Or my boss at the job that I work goes, hey, I've got an extra shift this week. And it just, it squares everything up.
Yeah.
So I live neutral. I don't pay tax. I don't have a driver's license. I'm living in my body. I have the state and the federal government recognize that. But that's my journey. But the fact of the matter is when you start auditing your life and figuring out what you actually need compared to what you think you need, that's when things start changing.
Yeah. Hold on. I got something binging on my screen and I'm trying to figure out what the heck is binging.
Okay, so Deborah Grant, I'm not picking you out, or you've said here, as I work for myself, I can do my own time and easily lose time or go into no time. You're quite right. Where does your money come from, though? Are you working for other people? See, this is where my thought process goes. The minute that I'm receiving any money from anyone else, I'm instantly on other people's time. Why? Because they have an expectancy of me to achieve stuff. And this is where it gets really fucking trippy. And the more you look at it, the more you realize that you're not on your time. Like, you know, you get what I'm saying? Like, the more you sort of look at things, you go, oh, fuck, oh, fuck, oh, fuck. And that was my big thing, was like, fuck, I'm selling all my time. I'm selling all my energy.
Yep.
All my currency is going somewhere else.
Yep. And your chickens are laying eggs like crazy in the background, and I'm giggling my ass off because I so miss that sound from being there in Australia. It's so funny.
This place, D, is fucking something else, though. This place, where we've landed, like, since landing here, people, I can't go into it too much, but for lack of better terminology, I've literally found myself in a real-life version of Moana, minus the singing.
Minus the singing? What? Do you even have the goofy chicken who doesn't even know how to peck properly?
I got fucking 7 of them.
Well, you're going to have to tell me the more.
But, yeah, no,
you hinted at that earlier.
But yeah, it's all how we look at it and conduct ourselves, people. Like, there's the amount of amazing people that I've met over the last few years, just the last few years especially. Like, I'll guarantee, I know that this is a big thing, but I'll guarantee that we can fucking fix everything.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep, that's what when I was talking to these friends of mine on the beach yesterday, and you know, there was one lady there who's really, really just starting to waking up to a lot of this other shit. She's a homeschooler. That's her niche. She knows all about that aspect, but all the rest of it is she's just starting to, like, eyeballs starting to bug out of her head with stuff. I'm not helping the situation because I always get into conversations that freak her out, at least every time we get together. But anyways, you know, and she was saying, well, you know, how do you do this? I was like, are you kidding me? I said, I know you need construction, guys in construction to build houses and stuff like, I know them all. Do we need people who can do permaculture and create the most amazing frickin' soil on the planet? Yeah, I know them too. Do we need healers and alternative doctors? And yeah, I know all of them too. Like, it's within the Unfuckers group alone. We have every aspect fucking
exactly
covered. And like we said, if all of a sudden you're not concentrating on working 60 hours a week, 50 hours a week, even 40 hours a week. And you can start concentrating. How many more people are going to discover they've got a talent that they didn't even know they had? That they're going to all of a sudden discover that they've got an energy device, they've got a healing system, and it's right here. And all they need is fucking 2 weeks by themselves of just like allowing all this shit to fall away to all of a sudden bring this forward and go, oh, fuck, snap, look what I've got. I've got this piece, and I had it all along, but I've been so fucking busy feeding my family and putting a roof over my head and stressing over all this fucking bullshit about having to wash everyone else's fucking dishes, then I never had a chance to actually see what was right there in front of me, what I can do. And that's the talent. Yep. And it's like, this is the thing. It's so funny because Ben actually mentioned it when I had this conversation before. When you create this kind of a space, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about creating a space. That is when you have your Platos and your Aristotles and your Teslas and your fucking Walter Russells. And these are the people who suddenly appear in your midst because they have the ability now to let go of all the bullshit and focus on that one amazing thing that they can do, or the 10 amazing things that they can do. And that is the difference. And that's what half the system is right now. Half the system is keep you crushed down so that you can't invent anything new. So you can't think up a new theory, so that you cannot, and even if you had that idea, you're so fucking poor and downtrodden and depressed that you never will bring that idea to fruition. And that's deliberate. It's completely deliberate.
That was supposed to say live too, not love, but I do love it here.
You love it. You love it and live it. There you go. I would love to see it one day.
Hey.
I would love to see it one day. But at some point in time, I'm going to be bringing you and Jesse out here to like Gozo because you're going to have the biggest soil job on you've ever had to deal with when I get you fucking trying to fix the soil out here because holy shit, it's fucked.
That's what everyone keeps saying to us. We're working on some devices at the moment that we've got to play with, but essentially, like, we've been watching people levitate water and make water luminescent, e.g. glow.
Cool.
Very.
Have you done any more work on the foamcrete?
No, not yet. Carl's been tootling around a little bit. I've been focusing on getting these institutes set up.
Yeah.
We're setting up some research institutes at the moment.
This weekend, we'll have to sit down, you and me and Nick will have to sit down and have a chat and catch up because we haven't had a chance to do that in a long time. He's been without internet for freaking months. It's been ridiculous.
Months? I think it's been fucking closer to a year. It's been funny.
All kinds
fucking tell.
All kinds of stuff. Well, it looks like a bunch of people are all dropping off. Everyone's like exhausted, tired, and we got the next crew in Australia are just waking up and are going, but I need coffee. I got a coffee break. So then we're going to round it up for tonight, guys. This was a fantastic conversation. I knew this was a conversation that had to be had this morning. And when Ben messaged me 3 minutes or 5 minutes before going live with, hey, I have internet, give me the link, I was like, yes. Going to be a good conversation.
Yeah. Well, I guess just like what we've spoken about, start thinking about where you're focusing your energy. And I don't mean like your focus and your personal energy. I mean your currency. Mm-hmm. You know, where you're directing your current. That's That's the biggest thing. And I guess after this conversation, Dee and hopefully John, we'll be having some chats soon because I think I've purchased both those domain mains back. So we're definitely working on stuff. And when it's going to be ready, it's going to be pretty fucking awesome. But we want it to go off with as little hitches as possible.
Yep.
So we're just making sure that,
in discussion.
So and there's lots of other big things happening on the Origine front and the New Zealand front, and we'll have more to update on that soon.
Awesome.
I've just got to be careful about what I say.
No going
because it is like
you have it concrete.
It's like, well, it's like I'm serious about the whole Moana thing. I'll explain that to you in private sometime soon. But fucking shit's getting all kinds of weird.
I told you to watch that movie, didn't I? It's like,
yes,
Moana.
Yes.
I was like, send Ben a message going, if you haven't seen Moana, you need to go watch it right now.
And I'd been putting it off because I knew what it was about, because I've got the info that entire movie is based on. So I've got that in oral history. So it's quite fucking wicked.
What is the movie?
Moana.
Moana. It's one of the latest Disney movies out there. It's the latest Disney princess movie. It is phenomenal. There's some shit in that movie that is like, wow.
Oh no, it's all subliminal. All subliminal. Put it this way. So in it, you remember what she was called? Tafiki?
Yeah.
The Earth?
Yep.
So just down the road, I have Tahuti Falls.
I highly suggest, if you guys haven't seen the movie Moana, you should go sit with your grandkids, your kids. It's a fun fucking movie. It's got the giggles. It's a musical, of course, but it's actually, some of the music is really, really catchy, and it sticks in your head forever. The story, though,
it's based on the oral traditions that go from Alaska all the way down through the South Pacific and end up in New Zealand. Put it that way.
Yeah, well worth watching.
And to make the movie, they actually spoke with a lot of the elders and the sailors and the ocean goers and everyone to get it quite precise.
Nice. Nice. So there you go. Homework assignment for everyone. Go watch Moana. Oh, listen, the whole thing of the redheads of New Zealand, that's another, we'll have Ben on. We'll get into that. That's it. We don't have time, Ben. Don't start. Don't start. We don't have time. That's another topic that Ben and I have been like.
I'll just throw in there that I have contacts with the Waitaha clan.
Oh, really? We definitely need to catch up.
Which are the redheads.
Yeah. So, we need to catch up this weekend. They're bin.
Sweet as.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, that is us. We are out, and we'll be back Sunday night. And God knows what we'll talk about Sunday night. That's like a whole 4 days away. So, I will talk to you guys all later. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Ka kite ano.
One small step for